Hello and welcome to the simulated webinar on how to add non-borrowing contacts in the Reimagine Podium platform. A couple of quick notes before we proceed with today's session. Firstly, you're attending a simulated webinar that you can access on demand at a time and place that best suits you to view. It comes complete with standard features, including a very quick knowledge check poll that you'll see at the end, along with the ability to send your feedback and questions via the chat feature. This is represented by a little chat icon that you will usually find on the bottom right-hand side of the screen if you've accessed this webinar via your desktop or laptop. If, on the other hand, you have tuned into this webinar via your mobile phone, you might not be able to see that chat icon. So we ask instead that you please email your feedback to the Podium Training inbox. That is podium.training@podium.net.au. We further encourage that you finish watching this webinar first to understand the process and the theory behind adding non-borrowing contacts before going ahead and mimicking the activity in the non-borrowing contacts eLearn. Finally, branded test systems are going to be used in this webinar. Platform functionality does behave the same whether you're a member of Plan, Choice, or Fast. Cool, so now that that's out of the way, I do want to give some clarity around exactly what non-borrowing contacts are and how you'll be able to distinguish them in the Reimagine Podium platform. So before we get started, here's a little bit of theory. It's important to know that the way you store different business contacts in your database is going to change. Exactly why, I hear you ask. Well, we get that not everyone you're doing business with and store information on in Podium is applying for loans. For example, you might want to store information on non-borrowing relatives for your clients, as well as any financial professionals that they work with. Think any conveyancers or solicitors that they might have sought advice from, maybe even financial planners, accountants, real estate agents. You probably also want to, if you're not already, storing information on referrers in your database, specifically so that you can understand how valuable those referral agreements are to you. Doesn't it therefore make sense that you store these people's details separately from your clients and your leads? Well, in the Reimagine Podium platform, you'll be able to do just that by using a specific record type called contacts. Now, what exactly is the difference between contacts and clients? You might actually use these terms interchangeably in your business. They might actually refer to the same types of people for your business, depending on how you operate and how you use the terms. In Podium, however, they are in fact two separate entities. Think of clients as the people you do business with who are applying for a loan, aka your borrowers, and contacts as the people who you're not doing business with for loan purposes or them specifically applying for a loan, but rather who might have important information that you will want to contact them about. You can see some examples on the right-hand side of the slide, which I also listed earlier. I want you now to take a look at the next slide to compare how contacts details are currently stored in Podium versus how you're going to store them in the Reimagine Podium platform. So here's a visual representation of what you currently might be doing in the Podium platform if you're capturing information on your clients' contacts or on referrers. You can see three different characters on the slide here. There's Alice, a first home buyer who's looking to apply for a loan through you. It makes sense that if she's going to apply for a loan, that you capture her contact details in a client record. She also works with a conveyancer by the name of Tom. He's not applying for a loan, but he has some key information that will help you to develop and eventually submit Alice's application. If you want to add him to your database, the only way you can do that currently is by adding him as a client, whether or not he is borrowing. Then there's Evan, an accountant who refers clients to you and also is not an applicant. If you want to store information on Evan in your database, you also have to enter him in as a client record. The other option is you could in fact add these two people who are non-borrowers as a lead, but even that in adding them as lead records, you are incorrectly defining their role in the database and their role or relationship to your business. In summary, currently in Podium, you need to add every one of these people as clients. Compare this with what is going to happen in the reimagined Podium platform. You'll be able to continue storing Alice's details as a client record or via a client record, whereas on the other hand, you'll be able to create separate contact record pages for both Tom and Evan and define them properly as to what relationship they have with your business. So then why? Why bother adding contacts? Well, hopefully, as you saw in the previous slide, they allow you to store information on referrers separately, which you could previously or currently only do by adding them as a client. As a plus, adding contacts in Podium can enrich your database, so long as you keep the records updated, thereby allowing you to report on any business activity. Take, for example, you wanted to report on the number of referrals you're receiving through a specific source. You'll be able to do that by adding contacts in your database, specifically your referrers. You're also aware that sometimes it is in fact necessary to note down details of non-borrowers related to your client, such as their spouses, their children, and again, any financial professionals that they might work with to bring about a mortgage. Think about the ease with which you'll be able to locate all the different information on the different people that you do business with by having everything in the one spot. So by storing information on everyone you do business with, whether that's by leads, by clients, or by contacts, having it all in the Podium platform will surely save you some time from having to search for it somewhere else. So there's some benefits in adding contacts to your database. Now, as far as actually adding contacts to your database, there is a golden rule that you must follow. Should you be choosing to add referrers or non-borrowing contacts to your Podium database, you need to follow the golden rule, which is as follows. You have to create a specific type of client record referred to as an account connection. This is a primary record to which you will be linking contacts. Salesforce's data model prevents contacts being added unless they are linked to a primary record. In other words, you don't have that primary record, you can't add the contacts. How you can go about adding contacts is completely up to you. Over the next few slides, I'll be showing you the different approaches that you could take based on the scenarios that I will describe in the next couple of slides. Take, for instance, this first scenario. Several of your first home buyer clients have sought advice from conveyancers to better understand the process involved in purchasing a property. Now, you're aware that these types of professionals have information or will have information on any adjustments to rates and taxes relating to properties, and that they can help prepare settlement statements for your clients. In other words, they're important contacts that you do want to have in your database. You decide then to add each of your clients' conveyancers to Podium so that you can reach out to them for information to help to develop and eventually submit an application. See in the diagram below, we've got 3 clients, each consulting or seeking advice from 3 conveyancers. That is Alice and her conveyancer Tom, David and his conveyancer Kirsty, and Mel and her conveyancer Hannah. On the right-hand side, you can see our approach to how we would add Tom, Kirsty, and Hannah to the database. First, starting out by creating a master account connection record named conveyancers. That means we're going into the client tab, selecting an account connection record type, naming it conveyancers, and then proceeding to the next step, which is to create individual contact records for Tom, Kirsty, and Hannah. When then prompted, we move to the 3rd step, which involves linking Tom, Kirsty, and Hannah to that one master account connection record that we had made called conveyancers. You'll see what that looks like in the test system shortly. So that's how we'd approach this particular scenario. Here's another scenario and a couple of ways that we could approach adding contacts for it. You've been running your mortgage broking business from a co-working space in the CBD for the last half year, and you've gotten to know a few other professionals in the same premises. You've gotten to know Sonia, an accountant, and Steve, an ex-retail banker turned financial planner. You all pick up your coffees from the same cafe downstairs, and you occasionally hang out for lunch. In doing this, you've all learned that you serve clients who often need each other's services. For instance, many people looking to buy a home might seek advice from a financial planner, while small businesses using accounting services rely on those accountants' advice and record keeping to have informed conversations with mortgage brokers when they want to borrow some money. Over a few conversations, you decide that it would be beneficial to refer your clients to each other, because why not? So from your end, you set up referral agreements with both Sonia and Steve, which state that for every client referred by them to you, whose loan successfully settles, you will share your commission and split a flat referral fee of $150. So in this scenario, you've got a couple of referrers that you are now wanting to add to your database. How would we approach this? There's a couple of ways. Firstly, we could create master account connection record or an master account connection record named referrers, and then proceed to create individual contact records for Sonia and Steve. When you're creating contact records, there actually is a spot within the record to mark someone as a referrer and respective referral agreement fields, which you can fill in if you have the information available. Once we've marked Sonia and Steve as referrers and saved their contact records, we would link Sonia and Steve to that master account connection record initially created called referrers. So that's one approach. Another way to add Sonia and Steve to the database as non-borrowing contacts is by further dividing them into or organizing them into separate master account connection records, one for accountants and one for financial planners. So that's what step one is all about. We'd go into clients, we'd create 2 new master account connection records, and then we'd go ahead and create the individual contact records for Sonia and Steve, again remembering to mark them as referrers. And then when it comes time to link them to an account connection, for Sonia, we would look for and select accountants, whilst for Steve, we would look for and select the master account connection financial planners. Summarizing that process up into 4 simple steps, we would therefore, first and foremost, non-negotiable, create and save a master account connection record. Once we've created that via the Clients tab, we would navigate to the More tab on the left-hand side of the screen, select and start to create new contacts. When we're then prompted to, we'll link the contact records to an account connection record. There's a section when you're creating a new contact record called Client Name. That's where you will search for the account connection record that you want to link. And once you've done the linking, you go ahead and you save that contact record into the database. Right, that's the process mapped out, and hopefully that little bit of theory helped to develop your understanding and appreciation for adding non-borrowing contacts into the database. I'll now demonstrate to you in the system exactly what that process might look like played out. So my screen has now moved into the home page of the Reimagine Podium platform. And what I'm going to do, following the steps that I just showed you in the previous slide, is start off by creating a master account connection record. To do that, I'll go into Clients. So I've clicked on Clients on the left-hand side menu, and I'll go ahead and look for the New button. New button is right here. And following the golden rule, I'm going to select the record type, account connection. None of these other ones because they don't relate to the non-borrowing contacts that I want to add for the purpose of this exercise. When I select account connection, I'll go ahead and click Next. And the pop-up window will transform to show me a few different fields that I will need to fill out. In this client name field, I'm going to give the account connection record a name. If we take, for instance, scenario 1, as the backstory for adding in this master account connection record, here I would call the account connection conveyances. I would also add a brief description in here just to help jog my memory about this account connection record in case I don't go ahead and look at this master account connection record for a while. Now that I've created that master account connection record, I can click Save. And my page will update to actually open up that record I've just created. So there's the first step done. I've created a master account connection record. What I now want to do is add 3 conveyances and then link them to this record. So I'll go ahead and navigate to the More section or the More tab on the left-hand side menu and find Contacts under the heading Business Tools. I do that and you can see I end up on the Contacts homepage, so to speak, and again start to look for the New button. I've clicked on the New button and I'm now given the opportunity to start to define the contact. Paying attention to the fields that are mandatory, those are the ones that I want to fill at minimum, but where I have additional information, I will add details there. So I'll go ahead and add Tom to the system. Tom is Alice's conveyancer. You'll recall in the process mapped out on the slide before we jumped into this test system that you did in fact, or that you do, not did, that you do always have to link the contact to a master account connection record before saving the contact. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to type in the word conveyances because I know that that was the last account connection record I created. You can see that it's there, and I'll select that to be the one that I'm going to link Mr. Tom Smith's contact record to. I'll now proceed to fill in other details in the fields for which I have information available. Okay, now that I've filled out all of that information here relating to Tom Smith and made sure that I have properly linked him to the master account connection record I created specifically for conveyances, I'll go ahead and click Save. If I did want to add multiple contacts to the database, I would click the Save a New button in that pop-up window that has just disappeared, but just for this exercise, I'm only adding 1 contact today. So there you go. We now have a non-borrowing contact added to the database that is linked to a master account connection record called conveyances and whom you can distinguish from the client or the borrowing applicant. So there's the process. Just to check your knowledge, reinforce what we have just covered in today's webinar, I'm going to go ahead now and put up a quick knowledge poll. You'll see that appear for about half a minute to a minute on the screen. We'll check back and review the answers and wrap this webinar up. Okay, so I hope that everybody had an opportunity to check their knowledge using that quick poll. And the answer to the question, what must you first create before adding a non-borrowing contact in Podium, is an account connection record via the Clients tab. That wraps it up for this simulated webinar on adding non-borrowing contacts in the Reimagine Podium platform. Now that you've finished watching this, go ahead and try and add a non-borrowing contact in the respective eLearn. You'll be able to find this by navigating towards the bottom half of the Podium Reimagine training homepage. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next webinar.